Thank you all so much for joining us for the time management workshop. Joining us today is Carly Barnum, graduate assistant at the Graduate College. Today she's going to discuss managing our time, especially as it pertains to our roles as students. Carly will speak on time management best practices and also talk about what techniques she's also implemented to effectively juggle the role of student, working professional, mother, wife, and more. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Carly to get us started. One second, clicker's not working.
Hi everyone. So like Nev said, my name's Carly. I'm a student getting my master's in school counseling, and I'll be honest, I'm not a professional in time management. However, I do wear a lot of hats, and I know that my time management skills really helped me survive last semester and this semester so far. So I'm hoping that today we can just brainstorm. I hope you leave with something that you can try to implement in your own time management for this semester. And yeah, I hope that we're able to take a very common topic, time management, and turn it into or see a different angle of this. So, what is time management? The self-controlled attempt to use time in a subjectively efficient way to achieve outcomes. It's achieving an effective use of time while performing certain goal-directed activities. And although there is no consensus on its major components, theorists typically portray time management as a multidimensional process that includes setting and prioritizing your goals, short and long-term planning, estimating your time demands, monitoring how your time is spent, and deliberately structuring and allocating how your time is used. So you all have a plethora of options of different workshops to attend. So my question is, this is for you. So please participate if you feel comfortable. If you don't want to unmute and speak, maybe you can type something in the chat. But why is time management important to you? And perhaps why did you choose to come to this workshop out of all of the workshops you could have gone to? Feel free to unmute. I'm going to apply to grad school soon, and I have trouble keeping track of my time. Yeah. And you'll see in grad school, it's pertinent in undergrad, but in grad school, you've got a lot, just kind of a lot happening, and you have to stay organized. You have to be able to juggle all of that. So many due dates, need to keep up. Most definitely. Awesome. So
there's a few others I can read for you. We have, so I can tackle all my goals and objectives.
Awesome.
Sometimes I spend too much time on things, and sometimes I have trouble blocking my time.
Awesome. So trying to stay organized and focused. I'm applying to law school soon, and this is a very relevant topic. Yeah, most definitely. So hopefully we'll be able to cover some topics that you haven't really thought of before, or some strategies and techniques. Want a little assistance to prepare myself and organize myself this semester. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I have one last question for you. What are some barriers to your effective time management? What have you seen? I know someone mentioned earlier blocking their time. Being tired, yeah. Living with other people, remembering to eat, yeah. Getting distracted. So, yeah, all very real. And, we're here in grad school because we're ambitious and we have big dreams and yeah, big ambitions. We have goals that we want to achieve. So being able to manage and juggle a lot of things at once is going to be key for your success. So procrastination, yes. Thank you for mentioning that, because that brings us to our next slide. So a lot of times when, just calculating how much time I need, yeah. So a lot of times when we think procrastination, maybe something that comes to people's mind is laziness, or what are some other things that come to mind if you think procrastination? I really appreciate you participating with me here also, by the way. Oh, yep, you think of TikTok, maybe lacking motivation,
Cleaning when I should be studying.
cleaning when,
Percent.
okay, cleaning when I should be studying,
Perfectionism.
perfectionism. I can really relate to that cleaning when I should be studying as a mother. There always seems to be something that needs to get done, right? So, did you know the most common patterns for students involved in procrastination, excuse me, it involves evaluation anxiety or being discouraged or depressed or dependent. And procrastination is also correlated with perfectionism. I think someone mentioned that in the chat. And students with intrinsic reasons for pursuing academic tasks procrastinated less than those with autonomous reasons. So if you can find your why, and even if you have to reframe it a little bit and, something that you maybe don't really want to do, but you can look at it from an angle of, this is something that's coming from within, a motivation from within. It might help you find your why and help you not to procrastinate. Can anyone relate with this? Is anyone willing to share their experience? Here. I did see someone earlier mention perfectionism in the chat. Having a why is definitely a big help. Yes. I'm more motivated when I feel inspired. Yeah. So it seems like there are multiple people, maybe even all of us, that can relate to this in some way. So if you're procrastinating, I want to tell you right now, it's not because you're lazy. It could be a whole slew of other reasons that have to do with your mental, emotional well-being. And it's good to hear that you're not alone. In group counseling, there's this idea, this concept of universality, where, something that's therapeutic that can be helpful and transformational for people is just to hear that, hey, I'm not in this boat alone. You can see right here, there are other people who are going through something very similar. So now we're going to tie this into another concept that might seem not necessarily connected, but we're going to try to sew a common thread. So self-regulation. I'm sure you all have heard of this study of there are these kids in a room, and the scientists come in and give each kid a cookie. And they leave the room and they say, listen, if you can wait to eat that cookie for 5 minutes, when I come back to the room, I'm going to give you another cookie. And this is delayed gratification, right? Well, believe it or not, most of the kids were not able to wait. And even though they would have gotten 2 cookies, they, ate their cookie. So there are different types of self-regulation. We're going to focus on behavioral and emotional, but time management is described as a highly self-regulatory practice. So self-regulation has a lot to do with how we're able to refocus our time and maybe come back to choosing the why instead of like the cookie that's being dangled in front of our face, right? So what is self-regulation? And I'm sure there are probably people here that know much more about it than me, but this is what I have to share about it. So it's controlling one's behavior, emotions, and thoughts in pursuit of long-term goals, the ability to manage disruptive emotions and impulses, the ability to cheer yourself up after disappointments, and to act in a way that's consistent with your deepest held values. Self-regulation, it's self-awareness, emotional intelligence, efficient filtering of sensory stimulation, effective coping strategies, relating with others, and sustaining your focus, and taking a pause between a feeling and your actions. Self-regulation, it comes from our childhood experiences, and it involves the whole person. So it's really looking at your like biology, your temperament, your emotional and mental health. And it's defined differently by different researchers, but there's commonly used and interesting distinctions. And so self-regulation is different than self-control. Whereas self-control is with like a conscious impulse control, your self-regulation is kind of like, what is your like immediate response? You know what I mean? And how are we able to make sure that our immediate responses are going to lead us to our long-term goals? So here's some strategy for self-regulation. Practice mindfulness and do breathing exercises. Getting enough sleep. Pausing for a moment to notice your reaction and then deciding your action. Creating intentional space for the things that you enjoy and taking a break. So notice all of these strategies have to do with taking care of ourselves and really taking preventative measures to ensure that when it comes down to work time, we are not hanging on by a thread. You know what I mean? So, and then I have a few examples. So, for example, a regulated person might be a cashier who stays polite when a customer is being rude for something they have no control over. Or it's a student who's tempted to go out for a fun night on the town, but decides to stay in and study for that exam. Or maybe it's friends who decide to take a break from a heated conversation to cool off and revisit the topic later. Why do y'all think I'm talking about self-regulation in a time management workshop? Any ideas? Any reflections or anything you can add to the chat or unmute yourself?
Excuse me, emotional reactions when you don't have control of your emotions, it's possible you'll waste a lot of time trying to control yourself.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you. And then also, hey, we're in school, right? If we're able to regulate ourselves, then maybe we'll be able to stick to our plan, our time management plan, and our strategies. So here, this is why we're all here, right? How do I effectively manage my time? Well, I have something to say to y'all that might not be exactly what you want to hear, but there's no singular way to do it. And you must tailor your approach to you and try out different strategies to see what works. I mean, something that works for you now might not work for you in the future. Something that didn't work last semester maybe will resonate this semester. So trying to switch it up and make sure you're turning your time management strategies. You include a time for reflection to see what is working and what can be modified and changed. So here's just kind of a recap of what we do know. Time management is a self-regulatory practice, setting and prioritizing your goals, short and long-term planning. It's estimating your time demands, monitoring how your time is spent, and deliberately allocating how your time is spent. And I would add on to that, reflecting on how efficient your time is, you are spending your time. What's working, what's not working, how can we modify, implementing, and trying something else out. And hopefully you find a good routine that works for you. Self-regulation, it has to do with the holistic well-being of the student and learned responses to automatic behaviors. And procrastination has much to do with the emotional well-being of the student. So for me, my big takeaway up to this point is that effective time management cannot be separated from your emotional well-being, your basic self-care, and your ability to regulate yourself and stay on task. All right, cool. So here's where we get down to some of the common time management strategies. I've got a whole long list there. We are going to go in depth for some of these. Take a second, read it over, and I'm interested to hear if there's anything that's not on the list that you do. I tried to get kind of like a comprehensive list of pretty basic time management strategies, and then maybe some different ones that you've never heard of. If there's anything that you do that's not on the list, there is going to be a moment at the end where I ask you about that, and I would love to hear about it. Because like I said, there's no one way to go about it. There's no one way to effectively manage your time. So maybe you have a strategy that will work for someone else. All right, let's get into the brain dumps. Oh, Audrey says internet browser site blocking extensions. Ooh, very nice. Maybe if you have, oh, we're gonna go into Eat the Frog, Rachel. If you have a suggestion for one of those website blocking extensions, maybe you can throw it in there. Okay. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start with the brain dump. There are different types of brain dumps. The stream of consciousness brain dump is basically where you get a sheet of paper and you just write. Your goal is to not judge, not think about what you're writing, seriously just get everything out, and it does not have to make sense. The to-do list brain dump is where you just write all of the things that you can think that you have to do. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to do like, oh, this is school or this is work. Literally just everything that you know that you have to do, get it onto one sheet or 2 sheets of paper, get it out of your head and written down. Then there's the gratitude brain dump, where you just write down, you try to fill a paper of everything that you feel grateful for, everything that's going right, everything that you feel happy about that brings you joy. And then there's the anxiety brain dump. What is worrying you? What's concerning you? Just try to get all of that anxiety out onto the page. And then there's one extra step for the anxiety brain dump. Go through each one of those and put an X next to each of those items that you cannot control. And you'll probably be amazed to see how many things you can't necessarily control. And it might help you focus on, these are the things that I can control, and maybe take action for that. So the major point of a brain dump is to center and ground you. It's to reduce feelings of overwhelm, to provide some guidance for your day, reduce anxiety about the day ahead, and clear your head and free up mental energy. You can combine that brain dump with this. This is the priority matrix. So maybe you did the to-do brain dump, and then you can divide all of those tasks into this matrix. So on the left-hand side, there's important and not important. Up on the top, it's urgent, not urgent. So obviously everything that's going to be in the important and urgent part of the matrix is going to be the priority. That's where you need to focus put your main focus on, because that probably has some sort of a timeline or a deadline that's coming up. And maybe it's just something that you're feeling a little bit more anxious about. And then, of course, go about the rest of your duties and tasks how it feels appropriate, but really whatever's important and urgent, you want to tackle head on. Then there's the bullet journals. I'm not sure if you've heard of bullet journals, but these are a really beautiful, creative way to express and put on paper everything that you have to do. And it's kind of a 2-in-1. So it's a meditation practice that's disguised as a time management strategy. So maybe you can take all of those things from the to-do list and you can put them into a bullet journal. See, like on the bottom left-hand corner, for example, on the top right, there's some pretty simple templates that you can go by. You don't have to be an artist to do this. The point is just kind of get everything onto one paper and make it in a creative outlet. There are some really beautiful bullet journals, and there are a lot of templates online, so you don't have to try to reinvent the wheel. You can just kind of look up bullet journal templates and start with a simple one. See if you can start with just black ink or blue ink, whatever, and then incorporate color later. Has anyone ever done a bullet journal, by the way? No? Okay. I know for me, I do a little bit of like doodling or Zen tangling in my actual agenda. But the bullet journals is super beautiful. I have a friend that was showing me their bullet journal, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's not something that you would throw away at the end of the year. Cool. All right. So these are the pro tips for planning your semester that are Carly, mother, wife, grad student, graduate assistant approved by me. So this is like my personal way of starting off my semester. And you know, even though we're not at the very beginning of the semester, you can still implement this. So what I do is every year I get an agenda, pretty simple agenda. I think I got mine for $5 at Walmart. And the first thing that I do is I put my class, my work schedule, if you're a part of any clubs or any meetings, if you have like your weekly therapy session, everything that's going to be fixed, put it in there first. And maybe you want to color code this too. So maybe everything that's fixed, you put in there first. So then you put all of your major assignments into your agenda from each syllabus. I personally print out my syllabus so I can really read it through and mark it. And then I put all of those big assignments into my syllabus. Now, there's a few little bullets for this. So think about how long it's going to take you to do each of those major assignments and put a start reminder in your agenda accordingly. So for example, all right, I have a final paper. It's 10 pages. It's due May 1st. It's going to take me about a month to do. So I go back to April 1st and I write there, start 10-page paper. Or perhaps I'll even divvy it up. So do the introduction and research, gather quotes, gather references. Then maybe the next week I'm doing the bulk of like the maths of the paper and incorporating those references. Maybe the next week I'm finishing it up. And then that means that I have a fully done paper, like more than a week ahead of time already done. So then that last week can just really be spent on editing. And you don't have to last minute cram. You don't have to be anxious or anything because you already have most of it done. Now, the next thing I have on there is browse through all of your assignments to mentally mark which ones will be most difficult. So with that, 10-page paper is the one that you're like, oh my goodness, that assignment seems really scary to me. Then maybe you move it from April 1st, maybe March 15th. You put that start date in there. And just really trying to prompt yourself to be aware of what's coming up and when, and get those start reminders in there. I seriously has saved me, okay? The next thing that I did was I read in all of my readings. So this week I have to read chapter 5 and 6 for this class. Now, super pro tip, read ahead and you can compensate for another week when things get busy. So if this week I had to read 5 and 6, maybe actually I read 5, 6, and 7. So then the next week I was supposed to read 7, 8, but I already read 7, so I read 8, 9. And after a few weeks, you get really ahead in your readings. And once like midterms come around or finals come around, you're already done with the readings. And you can give yourself a little bit more space for other study time or other things that you have to do. Another thing that I've noticed by reading ahead is that I'm able to connect the themes and the topics that the professor is lecturing about a little bit better because I can kind of see where they're going with the projection of the class. And then another thing, if you're not a person, if it's just not feasible, you don't think you're going to have a paper planner, then perhaps you utilize what you are going to use. Put it into your phone. If you are going to be using your phone or if you have a tablet, whatever it is that's going to help you stay on task and be reminded of what you have coming up, use it to your advantage. Right. Any questions up till now or reflections? It's okay if not. Waste no time. Oh, cool. Thank you for that. So in case you're wondered about like site blocking extensions, someone just now posted quite a few suggestions. Thank you for that. So the Pomodoro technique, this is something that I think I'm going to try this term. Something that was interesting to me that I had never done before. So the way that I understand this technique is You gather everything that you need for a task. Pick a task. We use that 10-page paper. Okay, I'm gonna need this book. I need my computer. I need a pen and paper. Get everything you need, sit down. Turn your phone on airplane mode, whatever, so people can't bother you. And turn on a timer for 25 minutes. The point is, or the goal is, you want to use those 25 minutes of solid focus on that task. When the alarm goes off, maybe finish your sentence or finish that one little thing you're doing. Get up, walk around, go get a drink of water, maybe go to the restroom, and you have 10 minutes of a break, and then you repeat. For anyone who's not music savvy, that's a repeat sign. So the point is, you want to repeat this process 4 times. So it'll take you an hour and a half, more or less, and you get an hour of super focused work done in that span without any distractions. And because you broke it up into those chunks, they say that it helps you to be more efficient and to really dive deep. I think I'm going to try this one this turn. Find a mantra to get you on task. So I do have a list of mantras here. And if you have a mantra that works for you, then drop it into the chat. A mantra is going to be a statement that is charged for you, that resonates for you, that reminds you of your why. Here are some examples. My success is within reach. 1 step a day. Stay focused, 1 step at a time. I can do this. My future depends on each step well done or done well. I'm doing this for. You get what you focus on. You can find an excuse or you can find a why. Action conquers procrastination. Action conquers anxiety. Action conquers blank. And I really love this one. Excellence does not require perfection. And our intentions create our reality. So trying to find that statement that resonates for you, that can get you back on track, remind you of your why, could be helpful. How to identify time-draining activities. Somebody mentioned this earlier. I do want to state beforehand that when I say time-draining activities, it's not about judging. It's not about being judgmental of yourself or being harsh or super critical. It's about self-awareness. So just being aware. And that awareness can be power to then pivot to something that can be more productive to bring you to your goals. So some questions to help you identify time-draining activities. What purpose is this activity serving right now? Does this serve a purpose? Is this activity helping me achieve my goals? Just brainlessly scrolling because I feel so overwhelmed with all the things that I have to do. Is this activity helping me feel rejuvenated, motivated, energized, rested? The difference a lot of times between just doing an activity and making that activity something like an act of self-care is going to be the intention that you put behind it and the way that you'll feel after you do it. Can this activity wait for later? Do I really need to be doing this right now? If not, then maybe you can try to change, change what you're doing. But also ask yourself, is this activity an act of self-care? So like I said, after an act of self-care, you can either jump into the shower and take a shower, or you can jump into that shower and really go in with the mindset of, I'm cleansing myself. I'm taking this moment for me. I'm going to really do like what I need to do. And then once I get out of the shower, feel rejuvenated and happy and setting that intention. If it's an act of self-care, make sure that you state that and that, you honor that. And maybe self-care doesn't necessarily look like going on a run. Maybe self-care is eating that bowl of ice cream and watching that rerun of Game of Thrones. And that's okay, as long as you go in with that intention. It's important. So here's some of the other common time management strategies that I thought were interesting. So focus on managing your attention, not your schedule. I'll read that one more time. focus on managing your attention, not your schedule. If you're here and you're in grad school, you're applying for grad school, then you have to have some sort of techniques that you've used to get you this far, right? So maybe it's not necessarily the strategies that are lacking, but the ability to continue to utilize the strategy or stick to the plan. So trying to focus on managing your attention and really honoring these time management strategies that you are trying to implement that can help to make it more efficient and more successful. The other one, know your peak times and make time work for you. Are you a morning person? Are you a night owl? Do you like to do, are you really focused right after lunch? Just know yourself and then try to set yourself up to be in a situation where you can dive into your work during those peak times. For example, I'm so productive at 8 in the morning until probably like 10:30. So how might this work out for me is, okay, so then by 8 o'clock, I know I need to be showered, dressed, need to have eaten my breakfast, have my cup of coffee, and I need to be sitting at my desk by 8 so that I'm not wasting those peak times in doing other activities. I can really focus and dive into the task at hand. And then eat the frog. Someone mentioned in the chat earlier, what is eat the frog? Eat the frog, I guess was coined by Mark Twain. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But it refers to doing that big task or that task that's kind of giving you anxiety. Do that first. The one that seems so big and so dreadful. Eat that frog. Get it done. So maybe at 8 in the morning when you're sitting down or at your peak time when you sit down, you do the worst task first. And then you have it out of the way. You don't have to continue to look at it on your to-do list or in your agenda, like, dreading it. You've already got it done. You can cross that one off. And then these last 3 resources, I can't personally attest to them because I'm old-fashioned. I use just like a pen and paper. But these are resources for people who are more tech savvy. Monday.com, Asana.com, Trello.com. They're all platforms to help you manage your time and your to-do lists. And if you know of any other ones that other students might be interested in, drop it into the chat. So then I have these 3 questions for you. Or you can respond in any other way, but can we increase effective time management by increasing overall well-being and balance? What time management strategies work for you? And what will you take away from this workshop? Feel free to drop it in the chat or unmute yourself. We're pretty much at the end of my presentation, so I would love a dialogue and just some ideas.
I've had a lot of success with the Pomodoro technique this semester, but sometimes I get into a flow state and my concentration will want to go more than just 25 minutes and I get kind of annoyed with the breaks. Sometimes I can't use it, but other times it's very helpful.
Okay, nice. So then maybe if you notice that you're able to go for a little bit longer, you can change that and modify it so that you can get that 35 or 45 minutes. Somebody said, yeah, 4 times and then 1 long break. Yeah, or I'd say if your goal is for 1 hour to, see how much you can get in that 1 hour, maybe watch you'll be done with that for a little while and then come back to it.
So Raymond asked how many times you repeat using Pomodoro. Yeah, so that one, I've heard people will do it was mentioned you'll do 4 25 minutes with 5-minute breaks, and then you'll do a really long break, like a 30-minute break or an hour break. So it depends. Or some people really like to do I'll set a 45-minute timer and then I want to take a 15-minute break every hour. So you just kind of make it work for you and what it's not like you have to do 25 minutes with a 10-minute break.
Yeah.
And then somebody here, Carly, answered for the first question, absolutely. I think making specific spaces for work and the rest will be really helpful. It will create the balance we need.
And I think something that I forgot to mention is in your agenda, schedule in your self-care. If you really like going on walks or you really like to take like a 30-minute bath, then put that into your agenda as if it's like a task that you're doing for work, something that you have to do. Because a lot of times, at least in my experience and in the grad students that I know, we tend to neglect ourselves because we're putting all of these other things first. But at the end of the day, if you're not well, if you're not taking care of you, you're not going to be able to take care of these other tasks and really, excel and reach your potential because you're tired or you're overwhelmed and you just didn't get that little bit of self-care that you needed. So make sure, and it could be just like the future school counselor and me, but we have to make sure we're taking care of ourselves. And a lot of these other pieces will fall into place.
Just to add on to what Carly said, sometimes, especially as graduate students, we'll sacrifice our sleep because we're like, okay, I'm gonna sleep less and then I'm gonna get more work done. But then we end up being super tired the next day and then taking longer to do a task than we would have taken if we were just well rested.
Yeah.
Because sometimes if we do it repeatedly, we'll just kind of burn out.
Yeah, most definitely.
Somebody just posted, I'm definitely going to schedule big assignments way ahead of time because I end up cramming the work a few days before the due date.
Yeah.
Then I end up feeling extremely stressed and anxious. I don't want to feel that way anymore.
Yeah. And it's like a little step that you can take. And I'm not going to lie. Last semester was my first semester of graduate school, and it was the first semester I have ever implemented that strategy. But it worked so well because it was in my agenda and I had planned it a month and a half ahead of time. I noticed that when it came down to like a week before, I had already edited and I was ready to submit. And it feels good. It feels freeing. It feels awesome to not have that weight of that deadline right here at your neck. You know what I mean? I would be interested to hear how it works for you, and I hope that it goes well. Here are some references. If you are interested, you can feel free to email us and I can send you this. This is all the different studies that I referred to in this chat. And thank you for participating. I guess if you have any questions or comments, now would be a great time.
Does anyone have any other questions or comments or any other tips for anyone on the call today?
Or any of the time management strategies that you used that weren't on the list?
So it looks like Audrey said, break large tasks into smaller ones.
Yeah.
So open a certain file, open paper, and mentally read this paragraph, write topic sentences. It helps decrease anxiety.
Most definitely. And sometimes what I'll do, I know, oh my gosh, I'm really dreading having to do that paper, but I might just open up Word in my computer and create the format, do the cover page, put in like all the formatting for APA and save it. And that's what I did for that day. But it's one little step towards the overall goal and one less thing that I have to do the next day.
We'll share this with you if you're interested and want to refer back to it. And then we'll also have the recording posted about a week or so on YouTube in case you want to go back to anything. But thank you so much, Carly, for sharing these tips with us. And thank you to everyone that participated. You all had some really great tips for each other as well. I'm going to just drop in the chat our survey. Frozen on this laptop. I will just email you all the survey if y'all can take a couple of minutes just to fill it out and let us know your feedback for the workshop. This really helps us as we continue to offer new topics for everyone.
And thank you very much, especially for your participation. I was a little bit hesitant to put so many questions and so many opportunities for dialogue, but you really showed up and I appreciate that. Good luck in this semester and in all of your endeavors. And I hope that your time management becomes more efficient and that you are successful in everything that you're trying to do. Thank you, y'all.
Have a good day, everyone.
Hi, thank you.